authority at all. And the men had established posts. And I wasn't in the least molested. I asked what was going on. Got rather evasive answers, but in the main found that the line taken by the men was that they were prepared to occupy the line, but they weren't prepared to fight.
The French army had endured too much for too long. The agony of Verdun, lack of leave, miserable rest camps and canteens, harsh discipline, low pay, and now the awful disillusionment of Nivelle's attack. It was not that they'd failed to win a victory. It was that the victory itself was not enough. It had not produced the expected ending of the war. The soldiers went on strike. All through May and into June, the mutinies multiplied. More and more regiments out of the line refused to obey orders, refused to take part in further attacks, or even to return to the front. Elements of 54 divisions were affected, yet there was little violence. For the most part, men drifted away into the woods, tried to commandeer trains to Paris, or just sat tight in their camps or billets, until, growing weary of inaction, they gave themselves up to loyal troops. Remnants of the Russian brigades set up soldiers' councils and disarmed their officers. They had to be shelled into submission by French artillery. But all this time at the front, the line held firm. The men's attitude was, we'll never advance, but we won't let the Boche advance either. No one believed any longer in a decision by force of arms, wrote an officer at French GHQ. It is an army without faith. A choice had now to be made between ruin and reason. Reason prevailed. Nivelle was dismissed, and France turned again, as she had done in the worst days of Verdun, to General Philippe Pétain, a man who understood men.
General Pétain was put in charge of the French army, and he re-established morale in a matter of months. I saw him doing so some of the time, and he visited in a very short time every division in the French army, insisting that every single company should be represented by at least one trustworthy man. He spoke to them all, and they realized he felt for them, appreciated what they'd endured, and was determined that they shouldn't be submitted to such unnecessary suffering again.
Pétain listened to the grievances of his troops and acted swiftly. Every man who could be spared was pulled out of the line. Decent rest camps were built with facilities for recreation. A leave system was introduced which allowed men home every 4 months, provided trains to get them there, and even canteens for the journey. The troops began to feel at last that somebody cared for them. that they mattered as individuals. But the requirements of military discipline demanded harsher measures as well. Pétain reported to the Minister of War,
"It is necessary to make examples in every regiment that has mutinied."
Over 400 death sentences were imposed. Many were commuted, but 55 ringleaders were taken out to face a firing squad. 55 executions. Those were the official figures. But it is likely that many more were shot after summary courts-martial. How many will never be known. The secret of the mutinies was kept with extraordinary success.
When I reported the War Office, there were mutinies in the French army. The Chief of the Imperial General Staff expressed the utmost astonishment at this, because he said he'd heard nothing of it. It did seem astonishing that we had 60 highly qualified officers attached to the French headquarters, and over a period of weeks, the French had managed to conceal any trouble from them. In a way, perhaps it was fortunate, because the Germans hadn't heard either. And if the Germans had, the war would have been over.
When Major Spear's report was received, he was ordered back to 10 Downing Street.
Lloyd George said to me, "Is the French army going to get over this?" And I said, "I believe it is. They've had a frightful time, but now Pétain's in charge, and he's a wonderful leader, and the men have got faith in him. I believe they will get over it."
France did get over it, but her convalescence was painful and slow. In the meantime, her armies were in no state to prosecute the war. It was a time of crisis for the Allies. The Russians were talking of signing a separate peace. The Italians were calling for reinforcements. On the Western Front, the British Army was left to bear the burden alone. In the words of Lloyd George, it was the one Allied army in the field which could be absolutely relied upon for any enterprise, however hazardous and arduous it might be. Yet one bright beacon illuminated these dark and desperate days. On April the 6th, 1917, the United States of America had declared war on Germany. Now, despite all the disillusionment of 2.5 years, there was hope again.